When you're learning a new language, it really all boils down to two key moments: the first word you say and the last. If you get those right, you feel incredible, like you totally belong. But if you get them wrong, well, it can get a little awkward. So think of this explainer as your complete survival guide to absolutely nailing every German greeting and goodbye with confidence. We've all been there, right? That deer in the headlights moment. You walk in, your brain just goes completely blank, and you end up doing that weird, silent little nod. Our whole goal here is to replace that panic with a response that feels automatic and totally natural. Let's get you ready for that exact moment. So, here's our game plan. We're going to start with the absolute essential conversation starters. Then, we'll level up with greetings that change depending on the time of day. We'll cover how to say goodbye gracefully, move beyond a simple hello, and then at the end, we'll put it all together to make sure it really sticks. All right, first things first, let's cover the absolute basics. These are your go-to, all-purpose greetings that'll get you through the door in pretty much any situation. Okay, so you see hello, hi, and hey, and you're probably thinking, I know these. And you're right, but there's a little nuance here. Hallo is your golden ticket. It's friendly, but it works almost everywhere. Think of hi and hey just like you would in English. They're a bit more casual, so save them for friends. Here's the number one rule. If you are ever in doubt, just go with hallo. It's always a safe bet. Okay, so you've got the basics down. Now, if you really want to level up and sound more like a local, you can start using greetings based on the time of day. This is super common in Germany, and it's a really nice touch that shows you're paying attention. The logic here is super straightforward. It basically just follows the sun. Before about 11 in the morning, you'll say Guten Morgen. Then, for the bulk of the day, let's say from mid-morning till about 6 in the evening, your go-to is Guten Tag. After 6 p.m. or so, you switch over to Guten Abend. Easy, right? Okay, now this is a big one. Seriously, lean in for this pro tip because it's a trap so many people fall into. You might be tempted to say Gute Nacht if you're meeting someone late at night, but don't do it. Gute Nacht, or good night, is only for saying goodbye to someone right before they go to bed. It's a farewell, not a greeting. If you're saying hello in the evening, you always stick with Guten Abend. And hey, did you catch that little pattern there? This is a fantastic little grammar hack. Notice how Morgen, Tag, and Abend all get Guten with an N at the end, but Nacht gets Gute. Right now, don't even worry about the grammar rules behind it. Just memorize that little pattern and you'll get it right every single time. And of course, just like we say morning instead of good morning, Germans use short puts too. In more casual, everyday situations, you'll often hear these greetings get shortened. So Guten Morgen just becomes a quick Morgen. And Guten Tag often gets shortened to just Tag. It's a really simple way to sound a bit more relaxed and natural. So you've nailed the entrance. Now, how do you make a graceful exit? Well, just like with greetings, there are a few different ways to say goodbye, and it really depends on who you're talking to. Think of it this way. You've got two main players here. On one end of the spectrum is the formal Auf Wiedersehen. This is your go-to for shops, restaurants, or any official setting. On the complete other end, you have Tschüss. This one is way more common, casual, and friendly. It's the all-purpose goodbye you'll probably hear and use the most. The others, like Ciao or Bis bald, are great, but best saved for friends. And this is where German gets really, really cool, and honestly kind of beautiful in its logic. Auf Wiedersehen literally breaks down to until we see again. Makes sense, right? So what happens if you're on the phone? Well, you can't see the other person, but you can hear them. So you just swap out the verb sehen, to see, for hören, to hear, and you get Auf Wiederhören, until we hear again. It's so clever. All right, so you've said hello. The natural next step is to keep that conversation going by asking, how are you? But, and this is a big but, in German, you really need to know who you're talking to before you ask. Formality is key here. So you've basically got three flavors of this question. If you're in a formal situation, talking to a shopkeeper, an older person, your boss, you absolutely must use Wie geht es Ihnen? For a friend, a family member, or someone your age, you use the informal Wie geht es dir? And if you're talking to a group of your friends, you switch to Wie geht es euch? Getting this right is a huge sign of respect. And what do you say when someone asks you? Easy. Here's your go-to formula. Good danke, which just means good, thanks. Then, to be polite, you toss the question right back. In a formal chat, you'd say, und Ihnen? And with a friend, it's just, und dir? That's it, you've completed the whole exchange. Phew, okay.
We've covered a ton of ground. So now, let's lock it all in. We're going to quickly run through the biggest mistakes people make, and then do a little practice round to make sure you're feeling totally confident. Mistake number 1, coming in hot, using Auf Wiedersehen when you hang up the phone. Remember the logic. You can't see them, you can only hear them. So the correct phrase is always Auf Wiederhören. And mistake number 2, getting too casual too fast. Using tschüss with, say, a police officer or an elderly stranger might come across as a little too familiar. So remember the golden rule. When in doubt, just stick with the polite and always safe Auf Wiedersehen. Okay, pop quiz time. Let's see what you've learned. You're walking into class first thing in the morning. How do you greet your teacher? Think about the time of day and the formality. Yes, you got it. It's morning and it's a formal relationship, so Guten Morgen is the absolute perfect choice. Well done. All right, round 2. You've just finished paying at a local shop and you're heading for the door. What's the polite way to say goodbye to the shopkeeper?
Exactly right. It's a formal, public situation, so Auf Wiedersehen is the polite and correct farewell. See? You've totally got this.
So let's just step back for a second and see what we've accomplished here. This isn't just a list of words. Think about it. You now know how to greet a friend casually or an official formally. You know what to say in the morning, afternoon, and evening. And you know how to end a conversation, whether you're face-to-face or on the phone. That's a huge toolkit for 6 core social scenarios you just unlocked. Look, you've just mastered the bookends of any conversation. The first word and the last. You have officially opened the door to speaking German. So the only real question left is, what are you going to say in between?